COPWATCH, policing the police every single day.
Smallville star, cult leader Allison Mack now accused of molesting 8yo girl and recording it. Allison Mack stands accused of videotaping and molesting an 8-year-old girl while at the NZIVM headquarters in Knox Woods. By John Vibes, July 6, 2018. As Allison Mack and Keith Raniere await trial for their part in a twisted celebrity sex trafficking ring, neighbors of the cult's headquarters in Knox Woods are coming forward with statements about what they saw while the cult was in town. Although the full extent of the accusations against Mack and Raniere were underreported in the mainstream media, one of the main charges in the criminal indictment against Raniere and Mack is sex trafficking of children. Although the details are scant on the child trafficking charges, a recent interview given by a neighbor reveals disturbing details about an alleged encounter that Allison Mack had with an 8-year-old gymnast. One of the main whistleblowers in the case is Frank Parlato, a former NZIVM publicist who has been leaking verifiable information to the press through his blog Frank Report. In a new post this week, Parlato shared an interview that he conducted with the neighbor who witnessed the encounter. The witness, who spoke under terms of anonymity, told Parlato that he saw Mack videotaping an 8-year-old girl and inappropriately touching the child under the clothes. She was videotaping the girl. The girl was doing these little gymnast things. It was creepy. Very creepy. I saw her feel the 8-year-old up. We were up off of Independence. She was up on Dash. And they were sitting there and I was walking with his dog and we were coming back and I was wondering what she was doing. I did not know who she was at the time. I did not know who she was until November, and then I was like, oh, that's who that girl is. But they were sitting there and I just said hi and I went up to be nice to them. We started talking and she was trying to quick end the conversation so she could get back to what she was doing. And at one point she was next to the 8-year-old and she turned around and went like that up the girl's chest, the witness said. Parlato asked if the witness if he could have been mistaken about the nature of the touching, but he said that he was certainly creeped out by what he saw. When asked why he didn't go to the police at the time, he said that on a previous occasion when he attempted to report a crime in the past, the local police attempted to turn it around on him. Other neighbors have spoken with the mainstream media, also under conditions of anonymity, offering different stories about living in the same neighborhood as a sex trafficking cult. There were always people going in and out of her house, cars parked around. Sometimes 10 in the morning, I'd wake up at 6 in the morning and there'd be a car there. There were constant people around. It was like a revolving door around here, one anonymous victim told News 10. She is not a victim. Not from what I saw here. I'm sorry. Not from what I saw. Well, I just hope he never gets out and she never gets out and they never come back, she added. Raniere is also accused of having a history of pedophilia, with accusations that stretch back over 20 years, involving girls as young as 12. In 2012, several women were interviewed by the Albany Times-Union about the coercive sexual experiences that they had with Raniere when they were young girls. One of the women in the case was found dead of a gunshot wound before she was able to give the interview. Her death was ruled a suicide. The U.S. Attorney's Office requested to have Raniere held without bail in a letter to the court stating that he was a known child predator. It is highly possible that this is a position that Mack was groomed for since she was a child, as many childhood stars turn from victims to predators as a result of what they often experience behind the scenes in the industry. Oddly enough, one of Mack's very first roles was in a softcore porn movie called Night Eyes 3. She was just 11 years old at the time.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much for joining us on a gorgeous day. I'm John Gray.
And I'm Lydia Colbita. We have new details tonight on the NXIVM investigation.
Yes, Smallville actress Allison Mack was in court today for a bail hearing in connection with her alleged ties to this alleged sex cult. Officials are telling News 10 moments ago Mack will be released on a $5 million bond.
She has to remain under house arrest at her mother's house in California. Now, there cannot be any contact with other members of NXIVM.
Max and NXIVM co-founder Keith Raniere are also facing sex trafficking charges here. Now, today we're also learning more about Allison Mack's activity while she was living here in the capital region. News 10 ABC's Ayla Ferrone has been dedicated to following the story and has the NXIVM updates for you.
She joins us live in the media center. And Ayla, you heard from one of Mack's neighbors today.
Yeah, people in the Knox Woods neighborhood are still on edge following Mack's arrest, those FBI raids, and the news that Keith Raniere was allegedly running a cult headquartered right here in the capital region. One woman sat down with me today to tell me what she's seen over the years.
She was second.
Anonymous, asking to be referred to as Ann.
She's very thin, blonde, blue-eyed, very pretty, yeah, very thin.
Saying she saw Mack in the Knox Woods neighborhood just last week with these men, moving out all of her belongings.
She came back Thursday night, like late at night, and she wasn't here long. Out the door she went, out of her, place. And then the next morning, it was 7 in the morning, she was here again and gone.
But Mack wasn't gone. She was in Brooklyn, arrested on federal sex trafficking charges. Ann says she often saw Mack with alleged NXIVM leader Keith Raniere, who was also living nearby. Ann has lived in the neighborhood for 17 years and says Raniere never talked to anyone until he approached her in March of 2017.
But after he met me, he would wave, and I'd wave back, and then a week after that, I never saw him.
About 8 months after, Mack reintroduced herself.
And then I never saw her again either.
According to court documents, Mack was responsible for recruiting women for Raniere, and Ann says she considers Mack a senior member of the cult.
Not a victim, not from what I saw here. I'm sorry, not from what I saw.
What do you hope happens?
Well, I just hope that he never gets out and she never gets out, and they never come back.
Now, some of the most recent federal papers claim Mack could be engaged in plea negotiations, but those who know Raniere, like Tony Natale, say until the rest of these people who are running this criminal enterprise are in jail, people still need to be concerned. She says there are people still out there that make up the core of NXIVM. I'm reporting live in the media center. Ayla Ferrone, News 10 ABC.
Thank you, Ayla. This is a story News 10 has been dedicated to covering. Make sure you stick with us both on air and online for the latest updates, including breaking news, documents, and video.
Police use who may want to retaliate against him physically.
Hey, Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County COPWATCH, and I just wanted you to know that I am using this stuff under fair use. And also remember to like and subscribe this channel. Also too, keep in mind I do not make any money on YouTube. This is 5 hours work a day, fighting for freedom. And you can donate with PayPal and Patreon. I just want you to think about this. If everybody gives to PayPal and Patreon is every month. Actually, PayPal you can do every month. I have 12,000 subscribers. If everybody gives, I can quit my regular job and go full-time investigations on Charlotte County and possibly even more and beyond. So just keep that in mind. If everybody helps out, I can go full-time doing this. Thanks.